I have one more bio to read, and this man is a true rock star. I'm not kidding you. I'm going to read word for word, and then I want to talk a little bit from my heart about him. He doesn't really even need an introduction. Jon Waters, in October of 2012, he was named the director of the Ohio State University Marching and Athletic Bands after a simply outstanding performance by the band that brought them national acclaim. Prior to that, he served the bands for 10 years. 10 years as assistant director under the leadership of Emeritus Director Dr. Jon Woods, and as interim director following Dr. Woods' retirement. Jon Waters received his Bachelor of Music Education degree from, the Ohio State University in the year 2000. He was a member of the OC Marching Band from 1995 to 1999. He served as a graduate assistant for the band for the 2000 and 2001 seasons and earned 2 master's degrees in music education and conducting from, of course, Ohio State. Waters has written band shows for the marching band, spring athletic band, and a number of high schools throughout Ohio. His duties include teaching undergraduate conducting classes in the School of Music, as well as conducting various concert ensembles. That's what it says in black and white. But what I can tell you from my heart is there is not a stronger, more personal, kind-hearted gentleman than Jon Waters. Ohio State, and I mean this wholeheartedly, Ohio State is so lucky to have you. I know they know now what they have in you. Maybe it took some of those dancing formations to realize it, but the attention that this man, and he doesn't even want to take the credit for it, the attention that he and his students have brought to Ohio State, you have raised the bar for marching bands across the United States of America. Nobody can compare with Ohio State. What you have done, I mean, you watched Ohio State football games this year, right? You did. I think that so many of us, it started mid-season, and then we were there to see the team win. We were there to watch the players. But by golly, we could not wait to see that halftime show. We could not wait to see what these guys are going to come up with next. I do what I call Sunday chats on our weekend morning shows, and we highlight people who influence others, who make a difference in our community, in our state, in our area of Central Ohio. And I was so privileged that Jon Waters said yes, that he would do an interview with me. And I wanted to show you that tonight. Unfortunately, we're not able to because, wouldn't you know, technology, just when you need it to help you out. But the one thing that I learned in that is if there was a man who believed in second chances, if there was a man who believed in never giving up and sheer determination, what he has done for Ohio State, did you know that when he first auditioned for the marching band, he did not make it? Did you know that? Did not make the Ohio State University Marching Band. I'm going to let him finish his story, but I am so proud and so honored to introduce Mr. Jon Waters.
So I can yell at a band across 100 yards. I think I can speak to this group without a microphone. We'll try it. If you have trouble hearing me, raise your hand. Just a little video here to get your Buckeye juices flowing. we kick off the 2014 season on Saturday, don't we?
Yes!
Ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to be here tonight with you and to talk to you about something that we are all very passionate about, and me especially. I am a steward of a tradition. I just happen to be one of 9 people in the great history of our band, the great 135-year history of our band, who happens to have his hands on the steering wheel of that great organization right now. I am a steward of that tradition, and I take it as a great, great honor to be there, to be at Ohio State right now, and to serve our students and to serve the Buckeye Nation. And so I'm going to talk to you tonight about something that we all love, and it's our band. This is not a formal lecture, so please, if you have any questions, Maureen, just blurt them out when they come to me. Right? So, wow. You know, Mindy, well, first of all, besides being my hero, Mindy, we had this wonderful time together, and we're talking about the band, and you know, it has been a whirlwind for me, really, since I took the band over 2 years ago. But you have to know that back in 1994, as Mindy said, I was cut from the band. And here's 1995. We're the same vintage James. You look a lot better than me right now. But this is me in 95 after I made the band. And I think the fact that I was cut from the Ohio State Marching Band makes me uniquely qualified today to lead our band. It's very simple, for the simple reason that I have to look 250 students in the eye every year and say, it's not quite your time yet. I was there. I was in your seat, and I had dreams and hopes, and I didn't play baseball. I didn't play football, and God knows I can't dribble a basketball. But in high school, I could play the tuba all right. And I had dreams of coming to Ohio State to dot the I. And that was my dream. In my little high school in Northwest Ohio, graduating about 72 of us, I can remember the graduation speaker at the time saying, and Jon Waters is going to go down to Ohio State and dot the I. And when I got cut from the band, I felt that I let that whole community down. And the one part of my story that put me on the trajectory to where I am today is the fact that I picked myself up and my tuba up and dusted myself off and went back at it. And that is so true for so many of our students. When you see the band on the field, know that over 50% of those kids have been cut before. 50% of our band have been cut before. And I was one of those people. And I think I'm in a position to have the empathy to speak to them and try to involve them in our band program and make them ready to try out for the next year. And we've had kids try out for 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 years in a row. We had a kid last year try out 5 times, got cut 4, made it last year. And I cried like a baby. It took me back to 1994. And every time that kid's name was not on my list of band members that I read that fateful night in August, it broke my heart. And year after year it broke my heart until finally he made the band. And it was one of the happiest days, I think, of my life when that student made the band. And I had the opportunity to talk to Urban Meyer, and he said, after about his second day on the job, you know, we're in the same business. We're about educating young people. And I felt that was so timely, because certainly Woody Hayes was about educating young men. Earl Bruce was about educating young men. John Cooper was about educating young men. And Cooper, by the way, still owes me one, because in 1998 I did dot the I at the Michigan game. And so we prepared the field for the team, I hope, and set the stage. But Jim Tressel certainly got it, and Urban Meyer. It is a long line and a long tradition of people who are educators first. We are in the business of building people. And again, I'm so happy to be at the helm. I'm not going to bore you with a lot of band history, just a few slides to let you know where we came from. This is the first known picture of the band from 1886. Look at that ragtag group of guys there. There's a couple of drums, a couple of cornets. Those are like half trombones. I don't even know what all that junk is. And I'm sure that it sounded absolutely terrible. In fact, look at the uniforms. They're not even all matching. It was after the Civil War. It was what anybody had. And the band was terrible in those early years. Terrible. But bands became associated with college football during those years and at Ohio State. It was the band under some colorful characters such as Tubby Essington and others who petitioned the athletic department at the time to show up with the band at Old Ohio Field, play the national anthem, and then go home. And that's how bands first became associated with college football. And then we see it pop up throughout the Big Ten. And so from humble beginnings in the dark basements of what was then the Ohio A&M University grew this great tradition that we celebrate today. 1934 was a pivotal time in our history because that is the year that the band became all brass. The band was patterned after the British brass band. And the sound of the band, here's my experiment for each and every one of you. The next time you're in Ohio Stadium with a visiting band, close your eyes, listen to our band, listen to the other band. You will hear the world of difference between the bands. This is one of the uniquenesses today. We are the only big college marching band that is all brass. And the unique sound of the all brass sonority from the bottom through the top of the band is undeniably Ohio State. And that is a pivotal moment in our history, 1934. 1936, another pivotal moment. Notice this first script Ohio here. This is the first script Ohio, a photo of it from 1936. And notice that the eye dotter is not a tuba player. He just happened to be the last guy in the line. And he happened to be a trumpet player. And Eugene Weigel, the band director at the time, said, "Young man, go out there and dot that I." And so with no fanfare or flourish, he just walked to the top of the I and stood there. It became such a sensation in that 1936 year that in 37, Eugene Weigel, when they did it again, wanted something more indicative of a dot. And so the sousaphone was chosen. This is the unintended consequence, by the way, of that decision, is this. There is not a better bass section in America than at Ohio State because they all come to us, I was there myself, wanting to dot the I. They grow up from this high in our state and from beyond, and they want to come to Ohio State and dot the I. The first thing you listen to when you get a new stereo system or you listen to the sound on your TV is the bass, is the lowest sound, and this is why we have the very finest bass section. This recruitment tool of dotting the I that dates to 1936. A couple of years ago, we just celebrated its 75th anniversary. In the 1940s and 50s, this picture from the Snow Bowl, the Great Snow Bowl. How many of you were there? I'm sure. Look at the stands. There's really not that many people there. I've talked to at least 500,000 people who've been at the Snow Bowl. Well, look at that. A snow-covered field, no yard lines to line up on, and they're making a pretty good Buckeye leaf on the field in a driving snowstorm. The 1940s and 50s brought us innovation, brought us tradition. It brought us 120 musicians. That was the band size during those years. And we have national prominence of the first Rose Bowl trips, those famous train trips from Columbus to Pasadena and back, where they made stops in the Grand Canyon, and Salt Lake City, and San Francisco, and LA, and Las Vegas. All these towns across America, the Ohio State Band gained great national recognition during those years. 1965, Hang On Sloopy. The story that accompanies this is always that a young man in the band had this new arrangement of a rock tune by this band out of Dayton, Ohio called the McCoys. And the director at the time said, the Ohio State Band will never play rock and roll. And the student kept after him and he said, we'll try it just once. And once was about all it took. 1965, the first rock song played by the Ohio State Band became so popular that the university fathers and trustees thought that the stadium would collapse with all the students in C-Deck swaying on one another's shoulders. And I'm happy to report that almost 50 years later, after many hang-on Sloopies in that stadium, it is still standing, and today, the official rock song of Ohio. 1973, Title IX. This is important, and it certainly paved the way for Shelley. But ladies in the room, did you know that before 1973, women couldn't be in the band? Unbelievable, really, by our standards today. And I say that that was one of the best decisions that was made. We got Shelley, and I got a wife out of it. My wife and I met in the Ohio State Band, and I can't tell you how many band weddings I've been to over the years. Band weddings are a hoot. If you've not ever experienced one, and the Alumni Band or some group shows up, it's a great thing. And so Title IX was one of those things that was certainly about darn time, but it allowed us to expand the size of the band. And so its current size of 225 members started in the 74 season through some small expansions to its current size. And women were the reason why. So we are currently the largest all-brass band in the world. We have over 5,000 living alumni, and the uniform is unique. You know that school up north, those guys march onto the field, and they've got these ugly yellow uniforms with this ugly blue M on it. And like it or not, you know that that's the Michigan band. And so they've had to, though, rebrand themselves over the years. That band, as well as others, have had at least 4 or 5 different uniforms over the last 20 years or so. That uniform, ladies and gentlemen, has not changed since the 1930s. It is a replica of the Army ROTC uniform with the West Point crossbelt, with the white spats, white gloves, and the plume on the military hat. And you know it's the Ohio State Band. There's nothing, it's not the new athletic department logo. It's not the new, or the old. It's not the new university branding that they can't exactly decide what it's supposed to look like. You know that it's the Ohio State Band by just seeing that uniform. And another inside baseball moment about our uniform. Our students, you will never see them out of uniform. You'll never see them after a game walking to their dorms or their apartments half out of uniform, with a jacket off, with a tie undone, with a hat off. We observe military cover, and every part of the uniform is worn in its entirety, and it's inspected every Saturday. So whenever they are in public view, they are as it should be and presented as the uniform is to be worn. And there are pretty stiff penalties, including thrown in the Olentangy River in the good old days, for not having your uniform neatly pressed and ready to go. And that's the kind of pride that they take in the uniform. The only time that we take the uniform jackets off is when the field temperature reaches over 100 degrees. And the students take this very seriously. When we take the jackets off, they fight like mad. We don't want to take this uniform off. And it's a health reason. And when the field temperature is over 100, we do take the jackets off. It's happened a couple times over the years, but not very often. My bottom bullet point here, tradition through innovation. So, all of these moments in our history, the all-brass sound, Hang On Sloopy, Script Ohio, they have all been wonderful traditions that we all celebrate when we go to Ohio State. And it was August of 2012, and the season hadn't yet begun, and I woke up one night in a cold sweat, and I said to my wife, what have we gotten ourselves into? What have I gotten myself into? Because I had a nightmare, and I see a sea of people, much like you, and in the front row of that sea of people are all the band alums with their arms crossed, saying, what are you going to do, kid, that hasn't been done already? What are you going to do? This band has played for presidents, it's marched in inaugurations, Rose Bowls, national parades, bowl games. It's performed in front of millions of people in its time, in its 135-year history. What are you going to do, kid, that hasn't been done already? And that was something I really wrestled with. What am I going to bring to the table? Because following a legend isn't easy. Ask any of our football coaches that question. You try to put your own uniqueness on it, but what do you do with an organization that is steeped in such wonderful tradition? An Illinois band alum once told me, you know, the great thing about Ohio State is your alums can come back year after year, march the same way that you marched over 80 years. Play the same versions of the school songs, carry the instrument the same way, turn the same way. The drills are very similar. There's a link to your alums. And the guy told me, as a band alum of the University of Illinois, the Illinois band has passed me by. The school songs are different, the uniform is different, the way they march is different. I have no connection to my school band anymore. And what you have is so wonderful. And so, I'm not going to walk into Ohio Stadium and our band center on day one of practice and say, okay, we're going to change things here. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, the old saying goes. And so I grappled with, what are you going to do, kid? And I came up with this very simple saying, tradition through innovation. Tradition through innovation. That today's innovations bring us tomorrow's traditions. And yes, indeed, in 1936, Script, Ohio was new and innovative, and it became a wonderful tradition. And in 1934, the all-brass band became a wonderful tradition. And in 1965, the band performing a rock and roll song became a great tradition. And so I walked into the first day of band, I got our leadership team together, and I said, guys, tradition through innovation. And they kind of looked at me, and I said, this is what we're all about, tradition through innovation. And we are going to push ourselves to maintain the traditions that we all love and create new innovations that will become tomorrow's traditions. And I think we have lived that over the past couple of years. Recent viewership of the band, 45 million hits on YouTube last year. 6 billion people worldwide have seen the band, and we've been carried on over 1,000 media outlets globally. Amazing, the reach of the band. We are the most widely recorded band in history. We have more recordings out, and the band started recording actually in 1958 and has done new recordings every couple of years since 1958. Let's talk about what makes the band work. We are a teenage army on the march. We have 250 students. We roll in 6 charter buses. We have a staff of only 6. We use a truck, 2 airplanes, a couple of vans, 115 hotel rooms when we go somewhere. It costs about 10 grand to feed the band one day. We use, prior to our iPads, we used 500,000 sheets of paper every year. There are about 365,000 total hours of rehearsal that the band does each year cumulatively, and we do it on a budget, including the bowl travel, of about $1.2 million. What makes the band work? Number one, a tradition of excellence. Our students know that every time they put on that uniform, they are marching for Shelley Graff, who marched for the people who came before her. Every time they put that uniform on, they know that they are marching for all of you, and that perfection is the answer. Every time that they put that uniform on, they understand that there is a tradition of excellence which builds our foundation. It's what we are standing on today, and that tradition of excellence is something that every student feels very, very close to. And I think the key ingredient to the Ohio State University Marching Band is the student ownership. They own everything that we do. I don't have to talk about mistakes because it's self-policing. If you play a wrong note, you either get an elbow in the gut or a dirty look. If you turn the wrong way, you know you turn the wrong way, and it doesn't happen again. Students own everything that they do on that field and off the field. And that's where, especially, I have made some strides, I think, with our band in the off-the-field things that the band is doing, which I'll talk about in a moment. We have a system of tryouts. Every student has to audition every year for the band, regardless of their year in school. We have challenges. There are 2 people in every row of 14 people who watch the herd during the week and think, I can beat you. And they challenge them. And so the alternates challenge constantly every week for a regular position in the band. And it is survival of the fittest on challenge day, let me tell you. Music checks. Everything that we play on the field has to be memorized. The students memorize all of that music. We rehearse 2 hours a day during the normal season, but the students probably spend another couple of hours personally every day memorizing the music. Now, technology has helped that along a bit, but the iPad isn't marching the show or playing the music. It's still the students. We have a system for loading a bus, a system for loading a plane. We know how many sousaphones can fit under the belly, the front cargo bay of a 737. We know exactly how all this works, and there's a system. And finally, policies and procedures, the band Bible. Let me just say that the fear of God goes a long way. And students know that if they screw up, it is, and in fact, something that I have talked with our squad leaders is the fact, on this next slide, you are your brother's keeper. The squad leaders are responsible for their rows. If somebody in their row screws up behaviorally, the student that screwed up is responsible, as well as the squad leaders, and they are disciplined accordingly. Servant leadership is something that I introduced this year because I feel that our students as leaders pass their leadership on, but they need to serve the people that they're leading. And so I think this is one of the biggest cultural changes that we've made this year is servant leadership. Our students are serving one another, and it's not, rookie, carry my instrument, rookie, get this cooler. It's, I'm going to carry this cooler and show you that I'm no better than any of you. Because I use the example. You all, watching the band on the field, you don't say, okay, that guy, he's a senior, and that's a freshman, and that one over there is a sophomore. It's the band. You don't care what year they are in school. It's all about decision-making and communication. Let's talk about how a halftime show is created. So, how do we come up with what we do? First of all, we brainstorm themes, and I start with the students. I have a meeting of our students every winter. And for about 4 or 5 hours one Saturday this year, we got together and brainstormed. They bring music examples, they bring pop culture, they bring top 40 stuff, they bring old stuff, they bring all kinds of media in, and we share ideas about a halftime show. This year we got about 100 ideas down on paper about what we could do next year. We do a research phase where we look up all this music, see what would translate well, see what show themes will go. We are going to post a couple of People's Choice show themes on our Facebook page soon, and you all can vote on those. In the summertime, we have music arrangers who arrange the music for the band. And each one of these people who write music create a different sound for the band. For instance, we've got a guy that writes and has written in his career a lot of jazz charts, and he wrote for many of the Motown groups. And so he knows Motown and jazz and that kind of bailiwick. We've got people that write rock charts. We've got people that do really good patriotic stuff. And so the music arrangers make this music come to life in what they do. We have attorneys, yes, who copyright clear all the music. Everything we play on the field has to be copyright cleared. And then we go into the concept and design phase where we think, all right, we're going to do a Beach Boys show. It's the 50th anniversary of the Beach Boys. What music are we going to do, and how are we going to represent it visually? And this is the change that I made. We could stand on the field in a square and play Surfing USA, but instead, my God, how about a guy on a surfboard with a wave following it down the field? Well, what the heck? Let's give that a try. And so this was our first attempt at animated formations. What makes it all come together is the students and the hours of rehearsal. All of the hours of rehearsal and the great students. The old Woody Hayes adage, you win with people, is indeed true with our band. The best students create the best product. Let's talk just a little bit about technology. We have these new iPads, no more paper. Let me just show you this. So all of their music, all of the recordings, everything that they do is on the iPad now. They can listen to what their part is supposed to sound like. This is actually a drill file. And I've got highlighted on this C6. That means there are 6 steps behind the visitor hash on the left 35. That's a little coordinate with their number, and that is followed through the whole chart. And so what I do, I write all of these drill formations, upload them to our iPads, and then the students can follow them through. And so this is how if I can use the technology, this is how our students are visually learning now. Here is the Superman formation. He goes and pushes the building, and the Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter. Funny story about Harry Potter. We're doing that music, and my kids are watching it at home, and I watch this little golden ball, and my son informs me, yeah, that's the golden snitch. So I go online, and it's all gold, and I go online to find this big bodysuit that has like a gold leotards and a big blow-up ball. And so we bought this thing and then gave him big wings. So Harry Potter on his broomstick was chasing this golden snitch around the field. And then, of course, the best part of the show, I think, was the dinosaur. This was featured in the Apple commercial that we just did. And, you know, the dinosaur has to eat. We're all hungry, and so why not a Michigan football player? So we ate a Michigan football player, and then the show ended with Pirates of the Caribbean. We sank a Michigan boat and had a good time. And so it's all on the iPad. The best part of this is that this was a student-driven initiative. 2 students came to me last spring and said, we've got an idea. They pitched it to me, and I said, well, I have some thoughts. Like, number 1, what if it rains? Well, there's an app for that. At least there's a case for that. What if you drop it on the floor? Well, yeah, it's life-proof. See, it works. This thing's been around the block a few times, and it's still working. And so, don't tell, Shelly. This was a student initiative. And what it has done for us, I said, I will embrace a passion and a plan. And that's exactly what those 2 students had, passion and a plan. And we came up with this great model for using iPads, which now is going across the country. And how this is different than how we learned before is every student received a paper booklet of charts before. Those paper charts were maps of the football field, which had counts of music corresponding to them. And I could see on paper that I was here, and then 8 counts later I was supposed to be over here. But was I supposed to go down and over? Or was I supposed to go back and down? Or was I supposed to go straight to it? And who am I near? That's all answered by this. You see who's around you, and you see how it moves. You can see exactly how it moves and who you're moving next to. You can break it down by counts. Everything is in full detail here. It's just like running a route in football. Our routes, no offense guys, are a little bit more exact than the football teams, but it's like running a route. But we don't have a 300-pound guy chasing us, too. So it's all right. So this allows us to be really exact with what we're doing. This is high-tech, circa 1950. You know how they used to do it? This is a charting board. See the yard markers here? And these are little pegs. And they used to set these pegs up into a formation on the field. Then the grad assistants would come by and copy all this down on paper. And then the directors would come and set another formation, and then the grad assistants would come. This took weeks to do, and of course what they did was not as complicated as what we're doing now. This is technology today. This is a computer programming program we're using right now. It allows us to see what the drill might look like on the field and as it's moving. And so we can look at it from different angles, et cetera, et cetera. I won't bore you with all this, but this gives us perspective in how it might look in Ohio State. The system, show planning, they have to memorize the music. Number 1, 75 pieces of music are being memorized every year. 2, memorizing drill charts, whether they're paper charts or on the iPad, they have to memorize their routes. 300 of them every year. We use video technology to not only look at the big picture from up top. I won't bore you with this, but we take a lot of rehearsal film and we see from the micro level how the students are doing, who's got their legs up, who's got the instrument position in the right carry place, who's playing well, who's not. You can see it from low camera angles. And here is the end result. Maybe my Bluetooth isn't working. Technology, I should have brought a kit with me. This is a video game show, and this was the music from Pokemon. I didn't know what it was. This was all a student idea. In fact, as we were conceiving this show, the kids said, we want to do all this modern video game music. And I said, great, we'll do it, I'm on board. But I'm old school. And I grew up with video games too. They looked at me like I was from another planet. Like, you grew up with video games? I said, yeah, Pac-Man, the Atari games, Mario Brothers, all those cool things. Let's do some of that as well. Tetris, I played Tetris as a kid. So we blended some old with the new. We got, this is Tetris. So the best part of this was we had the 18-year-old college kids immediately because they all knew it. We had people my age, my generation, because we grew up playing some of the old school video games. And we had my parents, because my parents grew up vicariously through me, hearing these video games from my bedroom and from our basements all those years. I'm going to fast forward just a little bit here. That's Mario and Luigi. All right, oops. Oh, how did I do that? Let me, hold on. You got to see, oh God, not me. All right. Legend of Zelda music. Yeah, they're playing all those notes too as they're marching. Let me fast forward just a little bit here. You can see all this on YouTube. Okay, here's the end. I had to throw this in because this is my era. This is the music to Pac-Man here. That's the best part of my job, to create these wonderful shows with our students. And one of the things that we've started this year is, even through all of the great recognitions that we've gotten and the great media attention and exposure, there's one thing that I must insist upon our students knowing, and that is the fact that there is life beyond the Ohio State marching band. And there's life beyond Ohio State football. We absolutely live and die by the scarlet and gray. And no matter what happens there, this is a life experience. The first goal that I have, my number one and only objective, is creating a student experience so that our students come out of this band better people. And you know, the great byproduct of that student building, person building experience just happens to be these great performances that we're doing on the field. We started a community service program this year where our students are out in the community. We are volunteering at various places, whether they're playing their instruments or not. It doesn't matter. They are out in the community. And these are just a few of the places that we have been in the past few months. And we will continue to do that, because it's so important for me to know that our students understand that they are just part of a greater community. And it's my job to make them and to help them understand that. This was a picture that somebody from our community sent me of his 3 kids. They could have been Disney princesses or pirates or something for Halloween, but for Halloween they chose to be Ohio State band members. Pretty cool. The best part of my job is on Saturdays, I get to just glance to the side, and as I'm on the ladder, really, my conducting doesn't mean a whole lot. I could fall off the ladder and the band keeps going. But I glance to the side and I look into the audience and I see a father and his young 6-year-old son. And the dad is pointing out the drum major and the sousaphone player and the dotting of the I and the O-H-I-O. We all have those stories, whether we were 6 years old when we first came to Ohio Stadium or whether you were 86 years old at your first Ohio State game. The best part of my job is I get to help the Buckeye Nation pass those traditions on to the next generation. That's the very best thing that I can do as a steward of this great tradition, is to pass on to future generations and to help inspire future generations of young men and women who will not only fill our ranks, but will pick up an instrument. Through all of this media attention, if that can convince one kid in the middle of Iowa somewhere to pick up an instrument and want to be in a band, we've done our job. And so I'm just here as the person who has the greatest job in America. It's an honor to serve. With that, can I entertain any questions? Yes?
I read somewhere recently that the first time Script Ohio was formed was in Michigan by Michigan band. Is that true?
Oh yes, this is a rumor we all have to put down. She said the Michigan band did the first Script Ohio, and I say heck no. They did no more did the first Script Ohio than we did the first Block M on the field. The Michigan band, as is customary with all Big Ten bands, will form the school's logo or letter. And so Michigan did an OHIO at one time that was reminiscent of Script Ohio. But as far as the spelling out of Ohio like a big follow the leader drill, that was definitely us.
What, did we get the idea from that OHIO?
No, in fact, the idea for Script Ohio came when the director at the time saw an airplane in the 1930s. It was an acrobatic airplane at the Ohio State Fair, write the word Pepsi in the sky. And he thought of the idea of having band members like skywriting, but on the football field, and that was his idea at that time. Other questions? Yes?
Do you ever consider making a DVD of your halftime shows?
We have considered making a DVD. It becomes cost prohibitive because of all the copyright licensing. When you go to video, you have to link. There's another level of licensing that needs to happen. But we are going to do that, I hope, eventually. HBO has contacted us. They're going to do a special on the band. ESPN is doing a special on the band. The Today Show is coming back. So we've got a lot of cool things coming up. And I will say that we've gotten standing invitations to go to, free of charge, they're paying for it, to Japan, China, New Zealand, Australia, Paris, France, London, England, Poland, and Rio de Janeiro. So we have a lot of cool things going our way. Yes, sir?
I heard that there was a shortage of iPads this year. With all the publicity and the national advertising, are you getting all the iPads you need?
We didn't have a shortage. We started the season pilot testing with a percentage of students having the iPads. I wanted to make sure that the technology was going to work and that it could work in our system. In other words, disseminating the information to the students, getting their music and their charts. I wanted to make sure that it all worked first. So we did not all start out with iPads. We do, through the graciousness of a donor who stepped forward, they funded the entire project. So we will, yeah, everybody has iPads. Yes?
I've always wondered when a cat accidentally gets lost.
Yes.
What?
If you lose your hat, in the old days, Shelley, you had to, not calling you old. But in years past, they used to throw people in the river. when they made a mistake on the field, and that is a mistake. But nowadays, number one, if you lose a hat on the field, you have to wear it the entire next week. And number two, you have to do what we call a penalty drill, which is marching really fast, up 10 yards and back 5, up 10, back 5, the length of the field. It's like a suicide drill. And I remember it distinctly. A really quick little story. It was my second game, and it had just rained. It was really humid, and everybody was sweaty, and the hats were not staying on. There's no chin strap. I mean, they stay on by friction. And it was raining hats. And I'm on the ladder watching all these darn hats drop, and I'm getting madder and madder and madder. And by the end of that show, we had 8 hats on the field, and I was furious. And I'm thinking, the alumni are going to just write me letters. They're going to post stuff on Facebook. What are you going to do about it? That, right? And they're going to just murder me. So I went into practice the next, on Monday. And I said, everybody take out your hat and put it on. And I took my hat out and I put it on. And I said, it was not an individual who lost 8 hats on the field. We have an institutional problem here that we're going to fix together. And we're wearing our hats all week. And we did, and not one hat lost the next week. So it was a good thing. So. I know it's getting late, and I could talk about the band forever. Yes, sir.
I just so happen to have a photo of like military appreciation today
Oh, cool.
at the shoe this past season, and I wanted to know if you would be able to sign it for me. It's for my own personal collection.
I'll sign everything you got. This is the first football players getting an autograph from a band guy. You look better than me, though. We had that picture actually was the Ohio State School for the Blind. We have a great relationship with them, and this year I wanted to do something special, and so they do a Script Ohio in Braille, actually forming the Braille characters on the field. And so what we did together was Script Braille Ohio and Script Ohio at the same time on the field. It was one of the moments that I'll never forget in my entire career. It was stunning. Yeah. Well, no, but it was the outreach was that. So. All right, and one more question, and then I'm out of your hair.
Oh.
Yes.
Well, my question is about the probably not so simple iPad conversion. Not all of us are the generation where that would come easily.
Yeah.
So could you just elaborate on how that happened?
And I'm not either. So the biggest sale on the iPads had to be me first. My kids, the oldest of whom is 10, so intuitive with iPads. Our students today at OSU, very intuitive with that technology. Me, old school. Still paper and pencil for me. Now, I'm using an iPad now. I really am. But it just takes a little bit of getting used to. But some of the apps that we have on there and some of the things that Apple has done for us has allowed us to add so much value and so much ability that the pencil and paper becomes totally obsolete. First of all, we can annotate on our music just like we have a pencil in our hand. Secondly, the students can actually, if I'm looking at a trumpet part, the iPad with our app that we're using, I can play my trumpet with the iPad, and it will track along the music with me. And it will tell me if I played a rhythm wrong or played a wrong note. And it will also play with, I can play with a recording of the full band playing together, and I can play with just my part parceled out by itself. And so it's what it does is so far beyond the paper and pencil that the value of it, I think every student realizes, and the old people on the staff realize as well.
I guess what I really wanted to also know is, so who wrote those apps?
We had some students do some. The chief designer for Apple did some, and they're doing some more. So this has been a kind of a ground up project for us. Lots of bands around the country now are starting to use this. A few on some of them, yes. All right, thank you so much.